Hey everybody, welcome to the Sana Q&As with Meredith Miller from Inner Integration. I'm here answering some more questions today. This person says, "Dear Meredith, thank you for your videos. I consider you a true friend. I am being targeted by this very vicious woman and her flying monkeys. She has spread lies and gossip which are untrue. Growing up in a family where there was a lot of psychological suffering and an unloving mother, I grew up into a fearful, insecure woman with very low self-esteem. I guess that's how I landed in this viper pit. This woman and her flying monkeys have reached a point where I feel I may lose my sanity. I don't want this to happen as I have children and I want to be centered for them. Your advice will mean a lot to me. Wish you a very happy new year in advance. May the new year bring all of us peace, happiness, and prosperity. God bless." So this is about the smear campaign and the flying monkeys. I can't believe I haven't really done a video on this in English yet. I did it in Spanish a while back. So this is good that you're asking this question. A lot of people are going through this. It is so exasperating to be the target of a smear campaign because it's a lie. Like that's what the smear is. That's what slander is. It's a lie. And they're saying false things about you. They're accusing you of false things. They're spreading gossip about you. None of it's true. And so naturally you have this like desire to vindicate yourself. Like you want to go out there and tell people who you are and what really happened and who that person is. And the problem is that if you do that, you're actually going to look like you're a problem, like you're the crazy one. People probably won't believe you, especially if this person is really covert. It's really hard for people to see the covert type of narcissist or sociopath because they look so good. They look like some kind of exemplary figure. If they don't know what to look for, they don't see it. So here's how I've dealt with the smear campaign. This is what I suggest. You have to release your control over everything outside of yourself and realize that all you can control is yourself, your attitude, your behavior, the actions that you take, how you show up in every moment is the only thing you actually have control over in this life. Like we are co-creators in this reality. We are creating and the universe is creating or God, whatever you want to call that force. There's a co-creation there. But ultimately, you can only control yourself and how you show up in the actions that you take. And obviously, there's a consequence to everything, good or bad. There's a consequence, good or challenge. Let's say there's a consequence that's going to show up. So this is a big life lesson in general. Like that's just a generality about life. When you're in the smear campaign, you're learning that big life lesson of stop trying to control everything outside yourself. You know, part of the controlling aspect of codependency, which I mentioned in one of the videos last week, I think it was in the caretaking video, is that in order to gain some sense of control, right? Because everything else is out of control. When you're in one of these abusive relationships, you have no control. You're powerless, you're helpless, everything feels hopeless. There's no sense of control. So the codependent tries to gain some sense of control often by caretaking that person, because then you're making yourself important. You're making yourself indispensable. You think, well, the person's not going to leave you. They're not going to cheat on you. They're not going to lie to you if you're taking care of them. And this is a survival strategy that we often learn in childhood when we're raised in one of these environments. And so part of healing codependency is releasing that control, recognizing you can't fix that person, you can't change that person, you can't love that person into healthy. You can't. Your love will not save them. I know most of us had that complex. Oh, my love will save him. My love will save her. But it doesn't work that way. Everybody makes that choice on their own. How a person chooses to show up in every moment is how they're choosing to show up. Even if they're acting like it's out of their control. No, how they show up is their choice. How they treat other people is entirely their choice. And you can't affect that. You can't affect how other people act and behave and the attitudes they have. You can only handle yourself. You can only handle your own reaction and response to what they do. And that is where you have control. And that's where you want to focus your attention because it is the only thing that you have control over. So don't respond to violence with violence. Don't respond to threats with threats. You know, I'm not saying you're doing this, but I'm saying this in general. If you're finding yourself in the smear campaign, it's tempting. It's tempting to want to get vengeance, to want to speak with the same words back to that person so that they hear you and hear the gravity of those words. But what ends up happening is you end up becoming the bad guy. You end up wearing just as much dirt. You end up becoming the viper to survive the viper's nest. When really, in reality, the best decision you can make is often to get out of that nest, to remember you're not a viper and the world isn't a viper's nest, and we don't have to live like that. There are viper's nests to be aware of, and you've definitely found one. But now it's up to you to decide what to do with that. The amazing thing that happens during a smear campaign is you find out who your real tribe is. You find out who your real family is, who your real friends are, the people who really have your back, the people who really know you. And no matter what they're hearing from flying monkeys or around town or whatever, they're like, that's absolute bullshit. I know my friend, I know my cousin, I know my sister, I know my whomever. And I know that's not them. I know this is a bunch of lies, and they're going to be there for you. They're going to have your back. You're really going to find out who your true friends are if you find yourself in the middle of a smear campaign. Don't try to convince the flying monkeys. You can talk to them. You can tell them your truth. It's good to speak your truth. It's important to speak your truth. Just be very careful in recognizing who it's safe to share that truth with and who it's not. You know, it's not safe to be sharing your truth with someone who's in denial. A flying monkey can be another victim. A flying monkey can be another codependent who's just clueless and not seeing what's happening, and they're enabling the abuse and they're sympathizing with the abuse, which is often what happens. Is the abuser, the manipulator, will enlist flying monkeys to carry out the abuse by proxy. Then the abuser looks clean. They didn't do anything. They washed their hands free. The flying monkeys went about doing all their dirty work. That can often happen. So flying monkeys sometimes just aren't even aware that they're being used to sympathize with the abuser against the victim, the target. They just might have no idea. They could be confused. Or the flying monkeys could be other willing participants in this game, other cluster B spectrum personalities who get off on playing this game. It makes them feel better about themselves if they can put you down. It makes them think that they're going to be safe from abuse as long as you're the target and they're not the target. Maybe they have a very low sense of self-worth and self-esteem, and so they get off on watching people cannibalize on other people's souls. You know, you don't know what you're dealing with. You might get a sense of that as you talk to them or a few of them about your truth real quickly. If you get the picture that they're defending the abuser and that they're sympathizing with the abuser, I would cut contact with those people immediately. I don't care if they've been friends since childhood. If they've been your friend since childhood, maybe they're not really your friend. If they're so quickly, taking the side of this other person and not even seeing who you are, realizing that they're participating in the game of abuse. So you will see who your true friends are. It's a really good time to make some cuts in your life, to get the toxic people out of your life, not to be afraid to be alone. You will feel like you're losing your sanity if you try to control or manage the situation of the smear campaign. You will feel like you're losing your sanity. You feel like you want to rip your hair out. You feel like you want to scream. You're going to feel so much rage building up inside. The best thing to do, I think, is get as far away as possible as soon as possible. Cutting off all the ties that you can with the group of people who are doing that. For some people, this might be a lot more possible than others. If you're at a work situation, maybe you can't escape it. Maybe it's a work colleague who's got the whole team against you. I've worked with several clients who are in this situation. It was inescapable at the moment. They liked their job or they couldn't find another job right away. In those situations, recognize you are in for major life lessons in boundaries, in self-esteem, in self-respect. You're going to have to minimize contact as much as possible with those people. Like if there's lunch groups that go out together, or people sit in the lunch room together, or happy hours together, or holiday parties, or any sort of extracurricular activities, I would not participate in any of that. I would come up with excuses like you have a special diet, so you're not going to go out to lunch with them, you're not really drinking alcohol, you don't want to be in the environment, whatever it is. But just make whatever deal with yourself that you're not going to go. You're not going to put yourself in a situation where more harm can come to you, especially in a social work situation like that, like the happy hour, the lunch, all this. That's a really dangerous situation if there's flying monkeys and a smear campaign. If you're in that situation, I would work on your resume, on your CV, beef it up, get it looking good, and start applying for jobs clandestinely. Don't tell anybody what you're doing, because then you're going to be a target. They're going to see what's going on. You never want to tell the narcissist you're making an escape until the very last possible moment, especially if you're dealing with a psychopath. It's best to sneak away. Don't give them any advance notice, because at that point they have nothing to lose. And so and other people are worried too about getting a job reference. Like, say this was your boss or your coworkers and somehow your whole team was involved. You need to get a new job, you need a job reference, but you can't ask these people. Well, you have to find somebody who's outside of that, either somebody outside of that group in the organization, in the company, and or people from where you worked before. You're going to have to find some way of getting another reference, but don't put yourself in the position where you're dependent on this abusive person to give you something that you need to empower yourself to move forward. So you will feel like you're losing your sanity if you try to manage the situation, you try to control what's outside yourself. You're going to feel exhausted. You're going to feel like literally you're losing your sanity. Keep yourself as clean as possible. You know why she saw the target on you, right? You already identified it's your past programming. You learned that in childhood. So that is where the real work takes place. That's where it is. It's about empowering yourself, not letting yourself be the victim any longer, taking the reins of control over your destiny and building your self-esteem through self-care instead of using the old people-pleasing, focusing externally, trying to help and fix everybody else so that you can earn your sense of self-worth. You got to turn that around and start giving that to yourself through your self-care practices. You said that you're a mama. You want to be the best mama you can be, so you don't want to be losing all your energy and risking your sanity trying to do damage control with the smear campaign, with the flying monkeys, trying to manage all that. Like, guess what? If you don't participate in that, it's not fun for them. Okay, the whole thing only works when you're participating, when you're feeding it, when you're having an emotional reaction and getting involved. It's empty if you do nothing. They need the thrill. They need to get a reaction. They need something juicy. They need to know that they've put you down, that they've hurt you, that they've caused you to react in some way, that you've given them importance. The best thing you can do is walk away and not participate in that. Like, I know it looks on the surface and it can even feel like a loss because you want to vindicate yourself. You want the truth to be out there. And that's such a big fat lie that you just want to scream it from all the rooftops so that the whole city can hear. I know. But the reality is that's not going to help anything. The best thing you can do is not participate. Not participate. Take action to heal yourself. Take action to heal those internal patterns. That's what you have control over. It's the only thing you have control over. And if you are in the middle of the smear campaign and you feel like you're starting to lose a grip on your mind and you're doubting who you are and you feel this crushing sense of shame, maybe they're right and all this, and you're getting really confused, go talk to someone who really knows you and really loves you. This is what Jackson Mackenzie refers to as a constant in his book, Psychopath Free. You need to have someone in your life who you really trust, you really love, you know that they really love and support you, and get a reality check from them. Let them tell you the truth. Oh my God, that's not you at all. Like, what a bunch of lies. Like, nobody who actually knows you would believe that. Let them put those words in your ears so that you get that reality check from someone who actually knows you. Like, when you're starting to lose the grip, right, of your own reality, get that reality check from someone who knows and loves and supports you so that you don't feel so alone, so that you can get that renewed, right, and come out of that hypnotic trance. Because when you're in it, you're in a hypnotic trance and you're just going along with what they want. You're letting them drive your emotions in the direction that they want, which then drives your behavior if you're not conscious and aware that that's happening. So that's how I would handle the smear campaign. Empower yourself. Don't give your power to them. Don't give your power to the situation. Turn that around. Take care of yourself. Work on yourself so you can be the best you, so you can be the best mama, so you can show up with everything that you have. And by living that example, the people who are actually paying attention are going to see who you are. Even people who don't really know you, they're just going to see who you are because you're living that example and you're not caught up in all that game. So I'm sorry, I know it's so difficult. I know it's exasperating when you're in the middle of it, but you're going to get through this. You just need to take your power back. I'm sending a big hug to you.